Can it be true? My instinct will not lead me askew. Older, I saw the truth even through closed eyes. I sought natural places to journey. I rode alone, traveled where no one goes, a place where little virtue is known. And what I found? Nothing. Well, will it last? Even if I threaten the last breath?
Whoa.
Nothing.
Don't kill yourself.
Play music. Play music. Come on, somebody. You know, sometimes.
Woohoo!
Bobby and I, he goes to kick butt. We go to kick butt tomorrow night. But before we go to kick butt, we got the Lion the Pirate at 1 o'clock. Then we got Austin Rose Roulette at 4 o'clock. And then we have spoken word.
He's a busy man.
I'll tell you why.
He's not that.
I was born in a little country town that became the capital. I lived in capital cities. I lived in London, I lived in Birmingham, I lived in Melbourne. But we're in my hometown. I go back, right? I was there last in January. And I ring up and say, hey, are you there?
Which was the
Why are
city?
you on the mic? My fucking turn.
You're not talking to
This is my friend, you know? Anyway,
Still singing.
I'm talking to him, okay? I go back and I say, hey, you lucky fuckers, I'm back in town for about 3 weeks. Where's the poetry? Now, this is a city, Brisbane, which is the capital of Queensland. I'm a Queensland boy. And it has 3.5 million people there. It's got catamarans, public transport, it's got light rail, it's got everything that Auckland should have and will have in 50 years' time. But it's now a progressive metropolis. So I assume that there's going to be poetry, right? So the people I know are the Karilpa poets. So I normally feature with them. So I say, hey, where's the poetry? And they say, here's mate. Our luck, we take January off. I say, do you stop reading for a month? They just don't get it. Poetry is life force. I don't think.
I've got a poem for you.
Okay, good night.
This is something we read last night at the Green Coffee House, and we recorded it. But Mom's doing music now, so that's kind of interesting. This is a poem about Alice in Wonderland. It's called "It's All in the Mind." The Dormouse and the old March hare decided to have a love affair. The Mad Hatter, he was rarely there, with poor Dormouse and Mad March hare, whom did not blink, just gaze and stare at what no one could say, for it was just his way, and no one actually felt safe, except Dormouse, which was rare. For she declined to care whom felt a little bare under Mad Hatter's snare, or mad old March hare's glare, as if they weren't there. Not many were there. So you see it's peas and parritch. The babes will leave their carriage, and they will while away to seize the day and find candidates for marriage. With Duckworth's thin, they'll plead, begin again, and thus they will supplant a heritage. And then the cycle begins again, as sure as ferrets are ferrets. Beyond the glade, promises fade to black and purple bruises. The night creeps in and steals light again. Resisting it is useless. Until the dark has fallen full, the eyes seek out the depth. Then light returns, the darkness spurned, the only choice that's left. The sun shines down upon the ground, and soon the tear stains dry, until the knave of hearts returns to steal tarts, hearts, lies. Curiouser and curiouser this house of cards does grow, until Alice breaks it down. The seeds of doom are sown, queuing for the impossible game. The lines of love revolve, and Pepperland gets populated with endless fans and gloves. It's on the line.
Hey, dang, a lot out here.
So I came up with a blank sheet.
Oh, man, that's good. It's great.
Yeah, so I mean, this is more like a story, I guess. So my wife is going through a career transition and practicing for interviews, and I just expected them to ask her, how do you want to change the world? And so I mock interviewed her to that effect, and she said, well, I would start the matriarchy and make it after that. And it made me think, like, fuck, why isn't, it reminded me of the Lysistrata, this ancient, like, Greek, like, comedy. Tragedy. It's where they say, like the Peloponnesian War, it's brutal. The women get together, they say, no more sex for you.
That's it.
Fuck
Cut
it.
them off.
Fuck it, no more sex for you. And it's like, that would change things, that would wake us up. Because I'm looking back in time and past artists and like Ginsberg's Howl, and it's like the problems of now were foreseen. And so, like, we need some new approaches, right? And so the revolution will not be televised. That is certain. And so perhaps, this matriarchy idea, men are welcome to join, just as long as you understand that we care about people as people first and foremost, and people over money, not money over people.
Yeah. Hey, that's
Woohoo!
Come on. Just your size. Classical poet.
For one day only, today, this poem is free. No strings attached, no funds to be matched. It is yours to do with as you please. If today is the day you need to stop him on the stairway and move in so close you can smell the scent of his eyebrows while you purposefully lick the underside of his chin, and then interspersed among the moans, tell him, there is no one on this earth whom I want as badly as I want you today, then this poem is for you and it is free. If today is the day that as you wait for the number 92 bus, you'll reach out to the old man who wears the sweat-colored straw fedora and shiny Stacey Adams shoes and say, good evening, sir. How was your day? And then listen to his answer and nod yes, and try to acknowledge his existence by pouring all of your attention into his eyes, and those eyes are smiling now as he recounts the tales of his day, and you know that is a good thing. If that is the case, then this poem is for you, and it is free. If today is the day you will sever the bloodlines that lead directly to your heart, and simply take your life to that moment just after your last heartbeat, but before oblivion. A place where you cannot hear me scream to you, you are loved, then this poem is for you right now, and I give it to you frantically and free. Or perhaps this is the day you take a piece of this poem and plant it into a pot or a poet, and then water it daily to see if it roots and grows. Or perhaps you will try to dry it out and crumble it up and make potpourri, wanting your house to smell like the poems of Nikki Giovanni. Then, when people come to visit, you will converse through the air of poetry on topics of love and revolution and listening and misunderstanding and life. Or perhaps today is the day you will use this poem to chisel bits and pieces of lost messages that you've always wanted to carve into the headstones of the Sandy Hook children, whose names Congress has forgotten. If today is that day, then this poem is for you. And I give it to you today for free. I'm sinking fast.
It's not as if I haven't tried to do with silence, being obedient at the back of the classes. Always a good boy. But the danger of silence and consumerism is that people misunderstand you. They think you really want to follow them. They think you're really listening. It ain't true. I was quiet for 3 years of my life, withdrew from everyone because I couldn't stand this world of war. I figured that's not the way to go on forevermore. At the end of 3 years, I realized a simple thing. There are two ways to realize your dreams. One is to withdraw your aura till you become small and invisible. And the other is to walk into the eyes of the dragon and become invisible again. Either way, you win. But you see, the way they really want to play the game is they make you into a consumer, make you silent and obedient so that you just nod your head. You don't have your own poem to defend your personality, but just sit back and buy the Gravity on MTV. Oh yeah, there's a clip I'll have to self-hypnotize myself with. But I gave away TV, except the TV watches me when I'm shoplifting. And I gave away consumption, except I have to buy to eat something. And I gave away a whole heap of things that I had because they were things, you see. And what I really need is nothing to do with need. It's to do with joy, happiness, and energy. And I realize to most people they're invisible things because they ain't things at all. So walk into the eyes of the dragon, speak your truth. Don't go sleep dreaming through the hypnotized world around you. Whatever you do, you're more than a consumer. You're a creator. And this evening was made for your dreaming.
This is another trope poem. I actually did what it said on it. It's called How to Get Your Own Back. You get pissed off. I arrived early, but the outspoken is not me. It's the venues for open nights back in England. I arrived early, put my name on the list, hoping not to be missed. And so the open mic began. After what seemed an age, nearly 3.5 hours later, I was finally called to the stage for my 5 minutes of fame. On last, it's normally at last, but didn't have the time to do my full repertoire of rhyme. So thought as was my accord, I'll go for the record. The shortest performance at Outspoken, so short it may never be broken. So to make it the shortest ever, I began with, hi, I'm Trevor. And then it seemed just right to end with, thank you, good night. All I had time for, couldn't do more. The audience astounded as from the stage I bounded, thinking, I'll have to skitty, but they'll not forget tonight. Had I got to? I doubt it. Because when I told a friend about it, with laughter he roared, saying, look on the bright side. At least the audience didn't have time to get bored.
You didn't really do it though, did you?
Yeah.
Oh!
Yeah, it says, I am Trevor, thank you. The boss says, says, is that it? I says, yeah.
This will be fun. This is great. So I recently got this magazine.
Yeah.
It's so it was a story about the Yellow Vests. Do y'all know about the Yellow Vests?
Oh yeah,
The Yellow Vests. So they've got an initial call. They publish like something. They got together. They published a piece of their demands. So first step. So how about I read it? It's fucking
Yeah.
great. All right, cool. We, the yellow vests of the roundabouts, of the parking lots, of the squares, of the assemblies, rallies, and demonstrations, have gathered on January 26th and 27th as an assembly of assemblies, bringing together 100 delegations in response to a call by the yellow vests of commerce. Since November 17th, from the smallest village, from the rural worlds to the largest city, we have risen up against this deeply violent, unjust, and unbearable society. We will no longer let ourselves be pushed around. We are rebelling against the high cost of living, precariousness, and poverty. For our loved ones, our families, and our children, we want only to live in dignity. It's unacceptable that 26 billionaires own as much as half of humanity.
Yeah.
Let's share the wealth and not the poverty. Let's put an end to social inequality. We demand an immediate increase in wages, social minima, allowances, and pensions, the unconditional right to housing and health, to education and free public services for all. It is for all these rights that we are occupying roundabouts on a daily basis, that we organize actions and demonstrations, that we discuss everywhere. With our yellow vests, we retake the floor. We who have never had it. Let's hope there's a lot of good stuff going on. That 200 million.
Did she write that?
Hmm?
No.
Right there?
No, the Frenchman did. They,
Which one?
The yellow
The
vest.
yellow vests. The Tom vests.
The top one.
Yeah,
right.
Matt, this is like a
You heard it being an investor, right? You heard it being an investor?
yeah.
Keep it clean.
Watch them make a mistake every time. Okay. This one, strangely, I found in a high school notebook of mine. Of course, I rewrote it some, but basically the ending is what the original ending was. So I'm really curious about this thing. How did I write that in high school? I don't know. It's called My Green Cocoon. Fruit trees grow round our house in Lubbock, with branches pawing at the roof and pushing against windows. In winter storms, the boughs creak and scratch. In spring and summer, the blossoms and leaves brush the shutters and screens with feathery strokes, strumming sweet melodies. Sometimes a duet, sometimes a whispered conversation, passing between limbs and the structure, between peaches and shingles, between apricots and eaves. In my bed at night, I listen and find some measure of safety, snugly swaddled in their dreams, coaxing me out of my fear of the dark. I consider these trees more a chrysalis than an irregular orchard. Maybe the heady fragrance spins a web of greenery, enveloping me in the house. After all, I feel I am a bristled lump of caterpillar inching my way through life. And now, cocooned here, I wait, perhaps someday to emerge and fly away, reborn in beauty.
Ah, yeah. Walk it, talk it. We've been away from Austin too long, man.
Huh?
It's too much outside world.
Just don't know, man. Normally this time I'm normally asleep. And
It'll do it for you. Yeah.
that'll work. I know Tom mentioned that a lot of my videos are when I'm traveling,
Yep.
which I do a lot of. Getting ready to go to Cincinnati next month.
Right. And I'll be there.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff at off the riverfront,
Mm.
and then I'm going back to Vegas, going to see Aerosmith.
Ah.
I'm not gonna do no poetry there. I'm just gonna go in, enjoy it. But anyway, huh? Oh man, I got cousins there. They got connections, so yes. This poem here, I actually wrote this poem. We was on a tour of the Red Rock Canyon,
Oh yeah.
and we was at the farm of Howard Hughes. So that's when I wrote this one, and it's titled As I Dance.
As I dance with my shadow, my name is written in the sand, clouded in a breath of air. Blood is lost deep within, caressing, lifeless, unseen, and a need. A reflection of my life, a choir of sorrow, seeps between my fingers, staining life pure, peaceful, and within. As I dance with my shadow, my name is only history, clouded in a time zone, but never forgotten.
Oh, nice. Good guy. Always in the way. Give me a louder room. That's right. This has to do with me and you and Las Vegas. How many in this room been to Las Vegas? I call it Las Vegas, okay.
I drove through it.
Yeah, I'm a very wise man. Las Vegas steals its water because it's in the middle of a desert in Nevada. It steals its water from other places, okay? Las Vegas has toxic food in the buffets. Yeah, dangerous food.
I don't eat in a buffet.
Don't eat the buffet, right? And Las Vegas it's now a family affair. It used to be a wild sex ride, but now it's just a family. It's the most artificial place on the whole planet. There's more lights beaming out, completely artificial, copying the pyramids, copying France, copying every other culture in the world, making miniaturizations of it, right? So people can stare and take photographs and, oh, look at the dancing fountains, look at the sinking ships. Okay, and then the next mob comes through with their little cameras, photographing the sinking ships and the dancing cameras. Okay, but the point is this. It is the most artificial place on the campus in the whole wide world. But 8 miles out, there's Red Rocks. That's where a lot of crime films are done. And 16 miles out is the Valley of Fire. And the Valley of Fire is where they filmed Star Trek. So of course I go out because I love Star Trek, you know, Americans. So I go out to the desert of there, and I'm walking down the track, and of course I get lost easy, and I can't find my way back. Right now, so consider this, right? You're in the middle of nowhere. This isn't just happened to me. It also happened to Spalding Gray. Anyone know about who Spalding Gray is? Well, he was a storyteller. He was a really good storyteller. He was also in the film Apocalypse Now, and a few other films. He had a stage play that was made into a film called Grey's Anatomy, but not the Grey's Anatomy you see on TV shows. Anyway, I used to see him live when he came to Universal Theatre in Melbourne a lot. But he told the story about one time he was completely stoned, right? And he was working on Apocalypse Now. They were all on drugs. Everyone was on drugs, right? And we went out swimming in the South China Sea. And at this middle, he was so happy, so stoned and happy in the middle of the South China Sea. He looked around. He couldn't find land anywhere. It didn't matter which way he swam. He was doomed to die drowning in the middle of the South China Sea, completely stoned. Wow, that's a true story. So, as we all do, what he chose was a random direction and went towards that random direction. And that's why he lived a few more years before he died and was taken from us, and was a really good storyteller. But I digress. The story I wanted to share was about Las Vegas. We did a thing called the National Poetry Jam. Because I don't like slam, I don't want to fight anyone for anything, but I love collaboration and improvisation. So this National Poetry Jam was fantastic. It was all these poets who, really gentle people, a lot of them were artists and photographers and things like that. And we met in Las Vegas in the convention rooms there, and we did poetry, not for prize or anything, but just for the sheer joy of doing it. And they gave us hotel rooms, because the hotel rooms were comped if you bought the convention room. It works both ways. You get the rooms, you get the convention. You buy the convention, you get the rooms. Okay, so it's a beautiful corruption of Las Vegas. So we're doing this, and I'm in a room sharing with another poet, and I'm reasonably naive, right? And I did not know that the whole of the National Poetry Jam was sponsored by drug dealers. They were starting to do it in my room, and I was thinking, I'm on the wrong planet. This is Las Vegas. I'm Austin, Texas. This is not the place to be. So I immediately, I've still got the T-shirt. I never went back to never went back to Las Vegas. Even though I met the ghost of Elvis walking down the mall, even though it just seemed like a complete fantasy land for families, even though poetry is very hard to find in Las Vegas.
Yes, it is.
It is hard to find in Las
But you
Vegas.
need to talk to Mr. LeBlanc if you go up to Las Vegas. LeBlanc is the man.
Okay.
Okay?
It's hard.
So you are warned. You're all going to get back. Everyone's addicted to the idea of an adult fantasy land. This is our fantasy, and that was my story. I'm waiting to hear yours.
Trip over a wire, Tom. It's a tripper, man. It's a tripper.
There it is.
Who's next? Hey, what? Bo's got nothing to say. It's my mark.
When I was 11,
Yeah.
something happened when I was 11. I used to catch every animal that I could when I was 11.
What'd you do?
I would put them in a drawer, or I would build a little cage, and I would feed them what I could catch.
Yeah.
But one time I saw an armadillo,
Ah. Uh-oh.
and I chased that armadillo, and they can hop.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but they can jump up in the air a pretty good jump. And I chased this armadillo and chased it, and it would stop occasionally and dig a little bit. And as I would get closer, I would realize that I was going to get it, and it ran and hopped again. And then I chased it through a barbed wire fence. And I had never been past that barbed wire fence. That was way out in the woods where I had never been before. And I followed that armadillo still further. It was hopping, and it was so exciting. It was like I was like a fish with a bobber just bobbing in front of me, and I wanted that armadillo so bad I couldn't think of anything else. It didn't matter if I got further and further away from the house, until I was so far away that nothing, absolutely nothing was recognizable, and I didn't know which way I had to go to get back, but I didn't care. And then the armadillo dug into the roots of a tree, and it was throwing dirt out from under the roots of the tree. Just pieces of dirt were just flying out. And I grabbed it by the tail, and I was pulling its tail, and I could feel its backbone popping a little bit as I was pulling his tail. And I yanked him out of the hole, and he starts doing like that. And I was freaking out because I didn't want to let him go, but he was just so intent on getting away and twisting, and he ran away. And so I thought, I can't go any further with this armadillo because he's not going to let me keep him. And so I started in the direction that I thought was back.
Uh-oh.
And all of a sudden I could see that the sun was going down. And it was like a bright red fire on one whole side. And that wasn't the direction that I thought I was supposed to go. But then all of a sudden I could see that it started spreading further and further around until there was a bright red glow entirely around me. And I could smell the smoke. And I knew I was in the middle of a forest fire.
Whoa!
So I jumped in a ditch,
Yeah.
and I started squatching through the ditch. And it got wetter and wetter as I went on down the ditch. And then I could hear something behind me.
The armadillo.
Animals were running behind me, and every time I turned around, they would be perfectly still and disappear. And so I scalotch. And then finally, I turned around and they were all close to me. There were deer, raccoons, every animal that I'd ever seen, the armadillos, and they all stopped when I stopped. And so I knew they were following me. They wanted me to show them how to get out of the fire. And now, I'm 11 years old, and I thought, I'm going to take on this responsibility. And I scalotch, and it's getting deeper and deeper. And then finally I can see that there is a barbed wire fence running across the ditch. And I scalotch, because it was getting deeper and deeper. And the mud was deeper. And the deer were all right on me, man. They were all around me. And the raccoons were off on the side, and there were snakes slithering up. And the fire was just like right on us all the way around. So I climbed through I was trying to get through the barbed wire fence, and it was getting on me and tearing up my shirt and everything. And the deer just launched themselves over me. And they were just like a waterfall of deer, just whoosh. They were in this big pond that was just on the other side of the fence. And so I'm in the water. I get in the water, and I'm in the middle, swimming out in the middle, and the deer are all moving in a big circle. And they didn't want to get close to me. And the raccoons are trying to climb up on deer, and the deer shiver them off. And the snakes are like swimming all around me and like coming up to me, and I'm like, but then there was nothing I could do about it. I just stayed still and let them crawl all over me. And the raccoons were coming up, and they were scared of snakes, and they would just, come and try to get a snake off of me so they would have a place to sit on me. And then a raccoon climbs up, starts to climb on my head, and his fingernails were like sticking through my hair. And he finally, one just sat carefully on the top of my head. And I was just like holding out my arm.